Welcome to the pet cleaning products that are actually worth your money.
Yeah, glad to be here for this one.
So, to kick things off, I have a really terrifying thought for you.
Oh boy, lay it on me.
Right. So, if you were to, turn off all the lights in your home right now, draw the curtains, and just flip on a high-powered UV flashlight.
The black light.
Exactly. Your seemingly spotless living room would, well, it would almost certainly look like a glowing biological crime scene.
Oh, without a doubt. It always does.
It's just the invisible truth of living with animals, you know? Like if you share your home with a pet, you already know the profound joy they bring.
Absolutely.
But today, we are tackling the absolute chaos they leave embedded in your floors, your furniture, and even the air you breathe.
Yeah, the air is a huge part of it, which we'll get into.
Right. So our mission for today's deep dive is highly specific. We are completely bypassing the endless mountain of marketing hype.
The flashy labels.
Yes, the flashy labels with the cartoon dogs, the gimmicky gadgets that promise absolute miracles. We're skipping all of that to extract the exact professional-grade toolkit that genuinely works.
There's so much junk out there.
There really is, and we are drawing from the real-world methods of a professional cleaner and the creator of the Clean That Up channel.
Right, who actually stress tests these techniques in his own home.
Exactly, cleaning up after his own two pets, Mabel and Ladybird.
Which I love because it's practical. It's real life.
It is. And, the baseline rule for this deep dive today, zero shame.
None at all.
Like, if your house smells a little funky right now, or your rugs have these mysterious spots, you are in the majority.
Oh, for sure. You are not alone in that.
Today is just about empowering you to take your environment back.
And it is an incredibly empowering shift once you realize you don't have to just, guess at how to clean up a mess.
Right.
The difference between a frustrated pet owner and a professional cleaner isn't just elbow grease. It's an understanding of the mechanics of the mess.
The actual science of it.
Exactly. The specific toolkit we are breaking down today is valuable because it targets the science of what is actually happening on your floor.
Which is fascinating.
It really is. We are going to explore the biological breakdown of proteins,
Okay.
the fluid dynamics of extraction, the physics of static friction, and the behavior of microscopic dander.
Wow. We are really getting into it.
Because the reality is, if you don't understand the underlying mechanism of a pet mess, whether it's chemical, physical, or atmospheric, you aren't really cleaning it.
You're just kind of hiding it.
You're just moving it around and hoping for the best.
Which never works out long term.
No, it never does.
So I want to start right at that crime scene analogy we mentioned, because the very first tool on the docket completely changes how you even perceive your physical living space.
It really does alter your reality a bit.
Yeah, and we aren't starting with a soap or a vacuum. The first crucial item is a simple black light.
Which you could pick up for around $20 on Amazon.
Super cheap. And the goal here is to stop getting down on your hands and knees, pressing your nose into the carpet, and trying to sniff out where a lingering odor is coming from.
Which, by the way, is an incredibly frustrating and inaccurate way to approach cleaning.
I mean, I've done it. We've all done it.
Oh, same here. But relying on your nose is basically relying on ambient air currents. It's a fundamentally reactive strategy.
Because you only know there's a problem after it already smells bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You walk into the living room, you smell something unpleasant, and you are essentially playing a geographical guessing game.
Right.
The black light represents a shift to proactive detection. Let's look at the chemistry of why this actually works.
Okay, lay the science on me.
So pet urine is complex, right? But one of its key components is phosphorus, alongside various proteins.
Phosphorus.
Yeah. And when ultraviolet light, specifically light in the 365 to 395 nanometer wavelength range, hits those phosphorus molecules,
They react.
they absorb the UV energy and immediately made it back as visible light. They fluoresce.
Oh, wow. So they literally glow.
Yes. So instead of wondering if your dog had an accident near the armchair or behind the TV stand, you just flip a switch.
And boom. There it is.
The exact perimeter of the biological hazard lights up,
Yeah.
usually in this bright neon yellow or green color.
It is literal CSI work. You are finding the exact footprint of the incident.
Which saves so much time and effort.
But, okay, I have to bring up a severe warning that comes with this kind of superpower.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
And it's a warning any professional cleaner will give you. What happens when you take this magical, revealing UV light into your own bathroom?
Oh, man.
It's terrifying.
Or your kitchen.
Yeah.
Because human beings are notoriously messy, too. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be a level where ignorance is just bliss.
Sometimes, yes, it is the definition of Pandora's box. Right. The second you buy one of these lights, the temptation to shine it everywhere is overwhelming. And I guarantee you are going to see a splatter zone near the toilet that you will deeply, deeply wish you could unsee.
You turn it on, and you cannot unknow the reality of your environment.
No, it's burned into your memory.
But, if we put the temporary horror aside for a second, from an analytical standpoint, that harsh truth is exactly what you need.
Because you can't clean what you can't see.
Exactly. You cannot neutralize an enemy you cannot see. If you are cleaning a carpet stain based only on what is visible to the naked eye under normal room lighting.
Which is what most people do.
Right. If you do that, you are almost certainly leaving something behind. Because liquids spread outward as they sink.
Oh, like a pyramid shape.
Precisely. The spot on the surface might be 2 inches wide, but the saturation in the carpet pad underneath could be like 6 inches wide.
Wow.
The UV light reveals those true boundaries. Now, there is a technical nuance to consider here regarding the light itself.
Okay, what kind of nuance?
Well, a standard $20 black light requires an optimal environment, meaning a dark room, closed shades, and preferably nighttime.
Right, because sunlight is just too bright.
Exactly. The photons from the sun will easily overpower a cheap UV LED.
So if I'm someone who does all my deep cleaning on a Saturday morning, that standard light is basically useless.
It will be highly ineffective, yeah, unless you can completely black out the room.
Which is hard in most living rooms.
So if daytime cleaning is your reality, you have to invest in a stronger, higher lumen UV flashlight.
You need something with more power.
You need a device that pushes enough wattage to compete with the ambient brightness of the room.
Okay, that makes sense.
But for most people, simply waiting for the sun to go down and turning off the overheads allows that inexpensive model to perform flawlessly.
All right, so we've played detective in the dark.
We have.
We've found the glowing biological hazard on the rug, but, just illuminating the mess doesn't actually solve the problem.
Staring at a glowing puddle doesn't make it disappear.
Exactly. Once we've successfully mapped out the disaster zone, we have to transition from detection to chemical warfare.
We need to neutralize it.
And the directive from our source here is incredibly rigid. You must use an enzyme cleaner.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
The professional cleaner we're learning from specifically uses a concentrate called War on P.
Great name, honestly.
It is a great name, and it was formulated by a veteran carpet cleaner. You actually buy it as a concentrate and mix it in a spray bottle right under the sink.
Which is very cost-effective.
Yeah. There are other acceptable brands he mentions too, like Roxy and Rocco or Nature's Miracle.
Those are good, readily available options.
But the non-negotiable factor is that it has to be enzymatic. Why? Why can't I just grab the heavy-duty dish soap or the standard foaming carpet spray from the grocery store?
Because standard soap-based cleaners and pet stains are fundamentally incompatible at a molecular level.
Molecularly incompatible. Okay, break that down for me.
To understand why off-the-shelf cleaners fail so miserably, we have to look at the biology of the stain itself.
Okay.
When a dog or cat has an accident, that liquid contains 3 major components: water-soluble components, various bacteria, and uric acid crystals.
Uric acid crystals, got it.
Right. So when you use a typical carpet shampoo or a dish soap, you are relying on surfactants to wash away the water-soluble parts.
Just the easy stuff.
Exactly. And to be fair, they do that well.
Yeah.
They also usually deposit a very heavy artificial fragrance to mask the biological odor.
Right. So the carpet smells like, mountain pine or fresh linen for a day, and you think you've won.
Precisely. You think the problem is solved.
But it's not.
No. Here is the critical failure. Soaps do absolutely nothing to dissolve uric acid crystals.
Okay, so they just stay there.
Yes. Those crystals are essentially microscopic, jagged shards that bind tightly to the fibers of your carpet.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is. And as soon as that artificial mountain pine fragrance fades, or the instant that section of the carpet gets slightly humid.
Like on a rainy day.
Yeah, or during the summer. Those uric acid crystals reactivate. The bacteria start feeding again, and the musky, sharp smell returns in full force.
So enzymes do something different.
Enzymes bypass the masking game entirely. Enzymes are biological catalysts.
Like living things.
Well, think of them as complex proteins that act like microscopic keys fitting into specific chemical locks.
Okay.
They are literally programmed to seek out the uric acid crystals and the odor-causing bacteria, bind to them, and actively break apart their molecular structure.
Okay, let's unpack this mechanism because I always try to visualize enzymes like a microscopic demolition crew.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right, like
Yeah.
if you hire a demolition crew to take down an old building, you don't just open the front door, let them step inside with their sledgehammers, and then immediately kick them out 10 seconds later, expecting the building to be a pile of dust.
No, they need time to swing the hammers.
Exactly. They need time to dismantle the structure. And I think this explains a massive disconnect I see when looking at product reviews for these cleaners.
Oh, the Amazon reviews.
Yes. You go online and you see hundreds of angry one-star reviews for high-quality enzyme sprays. People write, I sprayed it on the stain, I scrubbed it, I sucked it right up with my vacuum, and the smell is still there. This stuff is a scam.
Those reviews perfectly illustrate the #1 user error in pet cleaning.
Which is what? Rushing it.
Yes. It brings us to a foundational philosophy from our source. The label is the law.
The label is the law. I like that.
It's crucial. The modern consumer is heavily conditioned for instant gratification. We expect cleaning to be a spray and wipe process that takes 5 seconds.
Right, like wiping off a countertop.
But when you are using an enzyme, you are not using a chemical solvent. You are initiating a biological process.
The demolition crew.
Exactly. The demolition crew needs time to dismantle the uric acid. This requires a significant dwell time.
Dwell time, meaning just letting it sit.
Yes, you have to saturate the area, often going beyond the surface to reach the carpet pad where the liquid settled,
Okay.
and then you must wait. Typically, this means leaving it completely alone for 20 to 30 minutes.
Wait, 30 minutes?
Or longer. In severe cases of old crystallized stains, you might need to cover the damp spot with a wet towel to keep the enzymes damp and active overnight.
Overnight. I have to push back on the practicality of that.
Sure, go ahead.
What if I have guests arriving in 15 minutes and my dog just got sick on the entryway rug? I do not have half an hour to let a biological crew do its job.
Real life happens, yeah.
What is the protocol then? Are enzymes just useless in a time crunch?
If you are in a genuine time crunch, your immediate priority shifts from chemical neutralization to physical mitigation.
Meaning just get the visual mess out of the way?
Yes, you extract as much of the visible physical mess as rapidly as possible to make the area presentable for your guests.
Okay.
You might use a mild neutral cleaner just to handle the surface aesthetic, but, and this is the crucial caveat,
There's always a catch.
you must understand that you are performing a temporary cosmetic fix. You are executing what is known as a half cleaning.
A half cleaning, so it's not actually clean.
Not at a molecular level, no. The moment your guests leave, you have to return to that spot, apply the enzyme cleaner, and allow the proper dwell time.
Ah, okay.
Because if you apply the enzyme while your guests are walking up the driveway and then immediately blot it up with a towel, you are literally pulling the workers off the job site before they lifted a hammer.
The spot remains, the yellowing remains.
And the uric acid crystals remain intact. You must surrender to the chemistry.
Surrender to the chemistry, so it's just a required exercise in patience.
Exactly.
You spray it, you walk away, you make a cup of coffee, and you let the microscopic biology happen.
That's the only way it works.
And as a quick aside, if you're dealing with stubborn messes that go beyond surface level, make sure to visit Kindeke carpet cleaning on Google.
Because sometimes, despite our best efforts with enzymes, you need heavy professional artillery to reset the baseline of your home.
Totally. But assuming we are handling this standard accident ourselves, and we have waited that crucial 30 minutes, what happens next? Like, the bacteria are broken down, the uric acid is dismantled, but now we just have a puddle of neutralized enzyme-rich liquid sitting deep in our carpet padding.
And leaving that liquid in the carpet defeats the ultimate purpose.
Really? Even if it's neutralized?
Yes. The chemistry has successfully broken the bonds, converting the biological hazard into essentially inert matter, water, and carbon dioxide.
Okay.
But you cannot simply let it air dry. This is where we must transition from chemical breakdown to physical extraction.
Okay, so we're moving on to the next phase.
We are moving from biology to fluid dynamics. To accomplish this, the most effective tool is a spotter machine.
A spotter machine, like those little portable vacuums.
Yes. The specific model used by our professional guide is the Shark Stain Striker.
Oh, I've seen those.
But the mechanical principle across high-quality spotters is what truly matters here.
Because I always used to just take a massive wad of paper towels, drop them on the wet spot, and literally stand on them with my full body weight.
Hoping the liquid would just wick up into the paper?
Exactly. Just pressing and praying, but you're saying that's not enough.
Capillary action, which is what you are relying on with paper towels, is incredibly inefficient for deep carpet padding.
Why is that?
Well, when you stand on a towel, you are actually compressing the carpet pad,
Oh, sure.
which forces the liquid to spread outward horizontally beneath the surface. You're effectively enlarging the footprint of the stain.
Oh man, so I was just making it wider.
Essentially, yes. A spotter machine operates on a completely different principle. It uses a targeted high-pressure rinsing stream to inject clean water directly into the fibers.
Injecting water. Okay.
Right. This creates a flushing action, churning up the broken-down biological matter. Simultaneously, the machine applies powerful, localized vacuum suction.
So it's blasting and sucking at the same time.
Exactly. It creates a vortex that forcefully pulls the injected water, along with the neutralized urine and enzymes, out of the carpet and into a dirty water tank.
So we are actively flushing and pulling rather than just pressing and praying.
Yes, complete extraction.
But why is this level of extraction so critical? Like, if the enzymes already ate the proteins and neutralized the smell to the human nose, why can't we just let it dry out over a few days?
Does it really matter if inert liquid dries in the padding?
Yeah.
It matters immensely, and it's because of the behavioral psychology and the biology of your pets.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Dogs and cats possess olfactory receptors that are exponentially more complex and sensitive than ours.
Right, they smell everything.
Exactly.
Mm.
A dog's sense of smell, depending on the breed, can be anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 times more acute than a human's.
That is wild to even think about.
It is. So if you leave anything behind, even trace amounts of the dismantled biological matter deep in the pad that you cannot possibly smell,
They will smell it.
your pet will still detect it. And to a pet, that specific scent profile is a neon billboard that says, "This area is the designated bathroom."
Oh, wow. So you're actually creating a habit.
Yes. If you do not physically sever that connection through complete extraction, you are inviting them to repeatedly use that exact same spot.
It creates a vicious compounding cycle.
That eventually destroys the flooring entirely.
That makes total sense. It's not just about cleaning the floor, it's about breaking a psychological loop for the animal.
Exactly.
But I have to ask about the reality of the midnight accidents. Anyone with a puppy or an older dog knows exactly what I'm talking about.
The worst case scenario.
It is 2:00 a.m. You are walking to the kitchen for a glass of water. The house is dark and squish. You step in something wet and awful.
Terrible feeling.
Having a dedicated spotter machine prepped and ready for those middle-of-the-night emergencies seems like the ultimate convenience.
It really is.
Mhm.
Instead of spending 45 minutes scrubbing with towels and waking up the whole house, you turn on a machine, flush it, extract it, and go back to bed.
Right. It just makes life easier.
It fundamentally alters your stress baseline as a pet owner. It changes an overwhelming disaster into a 5-minute mechanical process.
That is a huge quality of life upgrade.
However, it is entirely fair to address the barrier to entry here.
Right. The cost.
A black light is $20. A bottle of enzyme concentrate is $20. A spotter machine is a dedicated household appliance.
It is a financial investment.
Exactly.
Right. That is the obvious pushback. Is dropping $100 or $150 on a spotter machine too much for a casual pet owner? Is it overkill?
Some might think so initially.
But when I frame the upfront cost against the long-term value, I completely agree with the assessment from the source that it is the ultimate invaluable gift for a new pet owner.
Oh, 100%.
Because think about the exact second you need it. Your new rescue dog gets an upset stomach on your brand new living room rug.
Panic sets in.
In that specific moment, the machine instantly pays for itself in saved carpet, saved time, and frankly, saved sanity.
The economics justify themselves almost immediately. Compare the cost of a portable spot extractor to the cost of replacing an entire room's worth of wall-to-wall carpeting.
Which is thousands of dollars.
Because the padding has rotted from repeated unextracted accidents. Or compare it to the cost of calling a professional carpet cleaning service every time there is a dietary indiscretion.
Right. You are not just buying a piece of plastic and a motor.
You are buying an in-house capability.
Yeah.
You are buying immediate response time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we look at our progress here, we have essentially mastered the liquid accident.
We have a solid system down.
We have proactive illumination with the UV light, we have chemical neutralization with the enzymes, and we have the fluid dynamics of physical extraction with the spotter machine.
And perfect trio.
But there is a much more pervasive daily physical issue that literally weaves itself into the fabric of your life.
Oh, yes.
It isn't a liquid, it is solid, it is everywhere, and it is maddening. I am talking about pet hair.
The endless battle. Pet hair requires an entirely different physical approach.
Right, no enzymes for hair.
No, liquid management is about chemistry and flushing.
Yeah. Oh,
Hair management is entirely about the physics of friction.
the physics of friction. I like that.
The toolkit for this is remarkably simple, but highly specific. It is a trio of tools that cost roughly $20 each.
Okay, what are they?
The Chom Chom roller, the Lily brush, and a heavy-duty rubber squeegee broom.
A rubber broom.
And the unifying, absolute necessity across all three of these items is the presence of rubber components.
Okay, I have always wondered about this. Why rubber?
It's all about the physics.
Because, like, why do standard brooms fail so miserably? Is it just because plastic or straw bristles don't have enough grip?
Well, yes, but there's more to it.
Because it feels like rubber actually drags against the fabric, whereas a regular broom just sort of glides over it without doing anything.
Your intuition about the grip is correct, but there are two distinct physical mechanisms at play here: aerodynamics and triboelectricity.
Tripa what?
Triboelectricity.
Yeah.
But let's look at why standard sweeping fails first.
Okay, aerodynamics.
When you swing a traditional broom, whether it has plastic, straw, or synthetic bristles, you are creating significant air currents.
You're just moving air around.
Right. Pet hair, especially from double-coated dogs or fine-haired cats, is incredibly lightweight.
So it just floats.
Before the bristles even touch the hair, the air current from the swinging motion catches those fine strands, lifting them up into the air.
Oh. So you aren't actually sweeping the hair.
You are launching it into the room's atmosphere, where it will simply drift and settle right back onto your surfaces an hour later.
So you're just relocating the hair to the air.
Exactly.
That explains why sweeping always feels completely useless with a shedding dog. I always feel like I'm just making a bigger mess.
You are. The second issue is how hair interacts with textiles. On carpets, rugs, or upholstery, pet hair doesn't just rest gently on top of the surface.
Right, it gets stuck.
Because of how the animal moves and walks, the hair acts like a tiny needle, weaving and threading itself deeply into the warp and weft of the carpet fibers.
Like it's sewn in.
Yes. A standard vacuum cleaner's rotating brush often just glides right over these embedded hairs, or worse, pushes them deeper into the weave. This is where rubber becomes essential. Rubber provides a very high coefficient of friction.
So it grabs it.
When you drag a rubber blade across a textile, it violently grips the hair. Furthermore, as the rubber rubs against the carpet fibers, it generates a static charge.
Ah, the stat.
Specifically, a triboelectric effect. Rubber sits far on the negative side of the triboelectric scale, meaning it easily grabs electrons.
Okay, so it gets electrically charged.
This static cling acts like a magnet, actively pulling those fine threaded hairs out of their woven state and clumping them together into dense, manageable masses.
That perfectly explains the analogy used by the creator of Clean That Up.
Rich analogy.
He describes automotive carpet, like the kind in the trunk of your car, as acting like Velcro or magnet for pet hair.
Oh, carpet is the absolute worst.
It really is. If you have ever tried to vacuum the back of an SUV after a golden retriever has been riding back there, you know exactly what he means.
It is pure frustration.
You can press the vacuum nozzle as hard as you want, and the hair just stays glued to the floor.
The vacuum does nothing.
But he points out that the Lily brush, which is essentially a rigid plastic handle with thick rubber edging, is the ultimate precision tool for those compact, stubborn, Velcro-like areas.
Because of that friction and static.
Right. You drag that rubber edge along the trunk floor, and it just physically rolls the hair right out of the weave.
It forces the hair to bind to itself rather than remaining bound to the fabric.
Because it clumps up.
Exactly. Because hair easily tangles with other hair. Once the rubber initiates the clumping process, the mass of hair starts pulling more hair out with it.
It's like a snowball effect.
It is. And you can see how each of these three rubber-based tools serves a highly specific operational purpose depending on the scenario.
Let's extrapolate on those specific use cases so listeners know exactly which weapon to pull from the armory.
Let's do it.
First, there's the Chom Chom roller. This is highlighted as your rapid response tool.
The Chom Chom is brilliant.
Imagine this scenario. You get a text that your non-pet loving in-laws are dropping by in 10 minutes.
It's a classic panic moment.
The cat has been sleeping on the velvet sofa all morning. You do not have time to go to the closet, drag out the heavy upright vacuum, unravel the cord, find an outlet, and vacuum the couch.
You'd be sweating before they even arrived.
Right. But the Chom Chom is a handheld device with a small compartment inside. You vigorously roll it back and forth over the sofa cushions.
Just a quick back and forth motion.
The friction of the rubber traps the hair, the rolling motion flips it inside the chamber, and you are done in 30 seconds.
No cords, no noise, highly efficient.
It is the perfect triage tool.
It really is. Then you step down to the lily brush.
Right, the detailing tool.
As we discussed, this is your precision instrument. It is small enough to fit into the deep contours of car seats, the tight 90-degree corners of your carpeted stairs,
Stairs are always a nightmare for hair.
or the reinforced edges of pet beds where hair heavily accumulates and larger, bulkier tools simply cannot reach.
And finally, we bring in the heavy artillery for the large spaces.
The rubber squeegee broom.
There was a point made about this tool that I found incredibly relatable. He talked about the addictive nature of using the rubber broom on carpets.
Oh, it's highly addictive.
Have you ever experienced this? You tell yourself you're just going to quickly tidy up one spot in front of the TV.
Just one little spot.
You press the rubber broom into the carpet, pull it toward you, and suddenly a massive tumbleweed of hidden gray hair emerges from nowhere.
Just magically appears.
You realize just how much hair was secretly woven into a carpet that looked totally clean to the naked eye.
It's shocking.
And suddenly it's an hour later, you are sweating, and you are aggressively sweeping the entire house because the visual feedback is so incredibly satisfying.
It creates an incredibly rewarding psychological feedback loop.
You literally can't stop.
Because you are seeing the immediate, tangible results of that friction. The rubber broom acts as your heavy-duty aggregator.
Aggregator, meaning it just gathers it all up.
Right. It is designed for large expanses of wall-to-wall carpeting or big area rugs. Its purpose is to physically rip the embedded hair out of the foundation and group it into a large pile.
So that you can finally vacuum it.
Exactly, so that your vacuum cleaner can actually ingest it without the roller brush getting tangled.
Because there's nothing worse than cutting hair out of a vacuum brush roll with scissors.
Oh, I hate doing that. However, as vital and satisfying as these rubber tools are, we have to acknowledge their mechanical limitation.
They have a limit.
They are phenomenal at handling the visible, physical strands of hair. But they do absolutely nothing to capture the microscopic fallout that pets leave behind.
The invisible stuff.
Which brings us to the root cause of what is universally identified as the dreaded wet pet smell.
Yes. The atmospheric defense.
We have to talk about the air.
Because up until this point, we have been looking down. We've been hyper-focused on the physical floors and the furniture.
Surfaces.
But we really need to elevate our perspective and think about the actual air we're breathing. To combat the systemic odor, the mandate is clear.
You absolutely must have a high-quality vacuum cleaner.
Specifically mentioning the Shark Power Detect. And it must feature a sealed HEPA filter.
The sealed part is key.
And furthermore, you need to pair that vacuum with a standalone air purifier in the room.
It's a two-part system.
The goal here isn't just about sucking up the tumbleweeds of hair that the rubber broom piled up. It is about actively extracting the dander.
This is a crucial biological distinction that many pet owners miss.
Dander versus hair.
Right. When people think of pet allergies or when they complain about a house smelling like a dog, they almost always blame the hair.
Because it's what you can see.
Exactly. But the hair itself is largely inert. A strand of fur doesn't really have a strong odor.
Really? Even when it's wet?
The true culprit, the direct biological source of that lingering wet pet smell, is dander.
Okay, so what exactly is dander, mechanically speaking? Is it just like pet dandruff?
Essentially, yes, but it is more complex than just dry flakes.
What else is in it?
Dander consists of microscopic dead skin cells that dogs and cats continuously shed as their epidermis regenerates.
Okay, so skin cells.
But it isn't just dry skin. These microscopic flakes are coated in dried saliva from when the animal grooms itself, as well as oils from their sebaceous glands.
Oh, so it's skin, spit, and oil. That sounds lovely.
It's a potent mix. These particles are incredibly tiny, lightweight, and often have jagged microscopic edges, allowing them to cling to fabrics.
Just floating around.
They drift through the air and eventually settle deep into the base of your carpet padding and upholstery.
So how does it cause that specific smell?
Here is where the odor mechanism triggers. When the ambient humidity in your house rises, or if the carpet gets slightly damp from a spill or a wet dog walking inside.
The moisture hits it.
Yes, the moisture interacts with the dormant bacteria and proteins trapped in that dander.
Oh, wow.
The moisture reactivates them, causing them to off-gas volatile organic compounds. or VOCs.
VOCs.
Those VOCs hit your olfactory receptors, and you perceive that distinct, musky, wet animal odor.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. We've talked extensively about chemical warfare today.
Right, the enzymes.
We have these amazing enzyme sprays that break down proteins, but are they enough to handle this dander issue?
No, they weren't.
Like, can I just walk around my living room spritzing enzyme spray into the air or lightly misting the entire carpet to kill the dander?
You cannot. And that represents a fundamental misunderstanding of the tools.
Why doesn't that work?
Because sprays are localized chemical interventions. They are fantastic for a concentrated, isolated accident, like a puddle of urine or vomit.
A specific spot.
But dander is a systemic environmental issue. It covers every square inch of your flooring and is suspended in the air.
So you can't just spray the whole house.
You cannot realistically or safely spray your entire home's atmosphere and every fiber of every textile with a chemical enzyme.
That would be ridiculous.
This is where we synthesize the final and perhaps most critical argument of this deep dive. The ultimate defense system against systemic pet odor is physical, not chemical.
Physical removal.
You need a physical mechanism to remove the dander from the environment entirely. That is why a vacuum with a true sealed HEPA filter is non-negotiable.
Okay, HEPA stands for high-efficiency particulate air, right?
That's right.
But what happens if I just use a standard cheap vacuum that I bought for $50 at a big box store? It still sucks up dirt.
It sucks up large debris, yes. But let's look at the anatomy of a cheap vacuum.
Okay.
When it runs over your carpet, the suction pulls up everything, including millions of microscopic dander particles.
Right, goes into the dirt bin.
The air carrying those particles moves into the dirt canister. But vacuums have to exhaust the air they pull in.
Oh, out the back.
If that machine does not have a sealed HEPA system, the internal filters are not fine enough to trap microscopic dander.
Oh.
So the machine forcefully sucks the dander out of the carpet, passes it through the motor, and then violently blows those invisible particles right out the exhaust port and back into the room's air at high velocity.
It's just a dander cannon.
Exactly. You aren't actually cleaning the room, you are simply aerosolizing the dander. You are taking a problem that was sitting quietly on the floor and blasting it into the breathing zone.
That is genuinely horrifying. You are just relocating the biological mess from the carpet directly into your lungs and your nasal passages.
Precisely. A true HEPA filter, by definition, traps 99.97% of particles down to 0.3 microns in size.
So it actually catches it?
It physically locks the dander, the dried saliva, and the sebaceous oils inside the machine so they cannot be recirculated.
That is a massive difference.
But even with a HEPA vacuum, you are only addressing the dander that is already settled onto the floor.
What about the rest of it?
Even the most rigorous vacuuming schedule in the world won't catch the dander that is currently suspended in the thermal air currents of your home.
The stuff floating around while your dog walks through the room.
Which is why the air purifier comes into play.
Ah, okay. That's the missing piece.
Yes. The air purifier provides constant active filtration of the ambient environment. It creates a necessary two-pronged attack on the home's atmosphere.
The vacuum and the purifier working together.
The HEPA vacuum is your offensive tool, pulling the settled dander from the physical foundation of the floors.
Okay.
And the air purifier is your defensive shield, constantly sweeping the invisible air column, catching the floating, microscopic fallout that the vacuum misses or that the pet is actively shedding in real time.
It is a complete atmospheric defense system.
It really is.
And honestly, I think that leads us perfectly into a broader concept to chew on as we wrap up this deep dive.
A philosophical takeaway.
Yeah. When you look at everything we have unpacked today, from the ultraviolet detection of hidden liquids to the biological lock-and-key breakdown of enzymes.
The fluid dynamics of spot extractors.
Right. And the triboelectric friction of rubber. And finally, the microscopic atmospheric filtration of HEPA technology.
It's a lot of science.
It really forces you to ask a much bigger question about how we coexist with our animals.
It does. It leaves you with a deeply provocative thought about the nature of a home.
What is that thought?
That true cleanliness, especially in an environment shared with biological companions, isn't just about what looks clean to the naked human eye.
It goes so much deeper than that.
It is about actively managing a complex microscopic ecosystem. The proteins, the bacteria, the uric acid crystals, the invisible dander.
And they're all just there waiting.
They're all constantly interacting with your environment, reacting to humidity, temperature, and friction.
So you really have to ask yourself a fundamental question about your approach.
Are you merely cleaning for aesthetics?
Hmm.
Are you just pushing dirt around and spraying artificial fragrances so things look and smell tidy for 20 minutes when guests arrive?
Which is what most of us have been doing our whole lives.
Or are you actually managing the atmosphere and the biological reality of your home? When you shift your perspective to the latter, the tools you choose to spend your hard-earned money on change entirely.
It changes absolutely everything. You stop falling for the marketing hype.
You really do.
You stop buying the cheap, brightly colored, scented sprays that just mask the problem, and you start investing in the actual science of your living space.
You build a toolkit that works with biology and physics rather than against them.
And remember, for those deep cleaning needs, make sure to visit Kindeke Carpet Cleaning on Google.
Because sometimes managing that ecosystem requires a little professional backup to get you back to a clean slate.
Thank you for listening to the Pet Cleaning Products That Are Actually Worth Your Money podcast.